the style wheels with this, it actually doesn't pop off. It turns, so you just unscrew it. So don't try to pop that off or you'll break it. Okay, and the lug nuts are 17 millimeters, and using a Milwaukee 1/4 inch impact, it just takes them right out. So if you pull the rear wheel off, you're going to want to you can either get a spring compressor to compress the spring, or I have a piece of railroad track that I have it set on, so it pulls the spring up once you pull the 216 millimeter, those 216 millimeter bolts out, and the 116 millimeter bolt from the back right there. You can pull this shock out. You can pull this shock out and then raise it up and then take the spring out, compress it back down with the new spring, put the new shock in, or if you're just changing the shock, you can just put the new shock in, depending on what you're doing. So once you get that rear bolt out of there, make sure that once you undo the nut off of it, you can pull the bolt out easily. This should be loose. If it's not loose, that means there's still tension on the spring. So you want to make sure there's no tension from the spring on this. You want to make sure there's enough weight compressing the spring so this doesn't have any load on it, because if it does, it's gonna be a big problem, because the spring can shoot out and you can get injured. So once you have that bolt out, you can now jack up the car to just enough so you can get the spring out. Okay, so once you jack the car up, the spring is going to hang down, is going to be all the way unbound. It's still going to be kind of wedged in there, so if you get a pry bar all the way on the bottom of it and just kind of get it out and keep going. All right, so get your pry bar and go on the bottom of the coil. Everything's unbound, so kind of just work her out of the perch. Get on the bottom of that coil and use that lip as leverage to pop her out. Put this hat onto your lowering spring. This comes right out, and you put that on your lowering spring or your new springs. If you're replacing springs, you can see this one's all pretty rusty from the winters, and you can put your new spring in. Okay, so you put the old, or if you get new ones, the rubber hat on the top of the spring. You make sure that it lines up with the, you can see the little ridge. You can see the little ridge right there. It fits right in there. If you don't have it in there, it'll be kind of make noise or not be centered, mess this rubber piece up. So you want to make sure that is in there correctly. We just stick this right back in here. Okay, and you just kind of slip it up, and then push the you can push on the caliper, give you more leverage, and to get the back of the lower portion of the spring in. Now I'm going to replace these. The bottom piece is already unbolted, so I just have the two 16 millimeters on the top. Just want to make sure the bottom coil is resting in that little groove. The shock out, you're going to pull this little plastic cap right here off the top. You'll pull the plastic cover off the top of that, and exposing that 16 millimeter nut. You're just going to take that off, and then you're going to exchange this aluminum top mount for onto the new shock. Once you get the nut off, you can just pull this whole assembly off and stick it on the new strut. And now you grab that assembly that you just took off, and you just stick her all the way on there, just like it was before. I like using the old nuts, screw the nut back on, and torque it to 30 foot-pounds. Okay, now you're going to bolt the top in first, the strut mount to the body, and these bolts get torqued to 22 foot-pounds in a quarter turn. All right, now lower the car back down onto the block of wood or whatever you have supporting the lower beam, and lower it down so the bolt hole for the strut mount is higher than the strut all the way extended. Bottom bolt and nut get torqued to 30 foot-pounds in a quarter turn. Now torque the lug nuts, they're 81 foot-pounds, and then stick your cover on and you're all done.